On another episode of Starseed Activations. And so tonight, we're dealing with a crazy shift right now. And so a lot of people have noticed this type of release is being called into our holographic simulation. And so this is because there's a lot of chaos in the energetics, which when we release it, it's going to allow us to bring in new energy. So a lot of times when people follow the shifts, right? And so you may constantly hear them say there's a release, there's a full moon. And so some people have gotten tired of hearing about it. However, what I personally do is I don't follow these things anymore. And so if they're in my awareness, they're brought to my attention, that's fine. But I feel them. And so I want you guys to start living in the now moment and see how you feel. Do you feel like there's anything in your physical reality that needs to be released? And so that is one of the primary topics in my reality for today. And so it's how to release. And so you guys send in a bunch of questions. So many of you guys had questions about how to release. And so we're going to go over that tonight. So let me see. How do I release the feeling of being misunderstood or attracting people that don't like me for no reason? And so how does it make you feel comes into play each and every single time when we're talking about emotion codes. Your emotion codes is what determines how you feel. And so me as well, I went through this for no good reason. And so, but what I was learning was people, they would accuse me of doing things that I would not be doing. And so it wasn't, I never did that. And so, but I got really angry and upset inside of being accused to do these things. And so the second that I no longer was affected by it was the second I released it. And so releasing it is very, very important, because if somebody comes up to you and they call you ugly and you know that you're not ugly, is it going to trigger you? Are you going to be bothered by it? The answer for that is no. And so if somebody accuses you of doing something that you know in your heart that you didn't do, then is it going to bother you? No, you're going to be like, you're crazy. Your response, your emotional frequency is what fires off into the holographic simulation around you. And that's what starts the cycle repeats. And so the cycle repeats constantly come back until we handle that emotion from a different frequency. And so when we're seeing a cycle repeat where people don't like you for no reason, that's because you allow it to disrupt your emotional frequency. And so what you want to do in that case is when people don't like you, say, it's okay to have the experience. Thank you for the experience. Many love and blessings. Go in peace. Me too. I come across people, and the second I open my mouth, they're not in resonance whatsoever with anything I'm saying. That's fine. We all deal with that, especially with the energetic shift that we see in the civilization. Some people are just not ready for this type of information. You guys can just imagine me at a party, right? And so I don't hold back. This is who I am. This is my life. This is my experience. And so when you really embody who you are meant to be, there's no apology for it, right? So I don't have to apologize for who I am. I don't have to worry or give myself any cares if people don't like me. I stand strong in my strength, and I'm my number one cheerleader. So every morning I wake up, I'm cheering myself on. Thank you. Today is the best day ever, right? And I say it every single day. Today is the best day ever. Even if it's crummy, even if there's chaos energy. Now, the star people have been walking me through advanced shadow work. And so it's very, very, very advanced. And a lot of people would probably not understand this, but I understand it because I understand the dark forces. I understand the forces of light. Now, we have to realize this is something, I guess we're going to talk about this. So there has been a government man. And so everyone who follows my videos, maybe you guys have seen him on the video, or maybe you've seen, I almost threw myself on the floor once because I saw this man who was cloaked in my bedroom, and he went running down the hallway. And so, but I seen him, and I seen his military boots. He's been around. He's constantly around. And so every time I'm doing the live, I kind of feel him or sense him. Or the last live I did, I felt like my thoughts and my words were being pulled out of my consciousness. And so it was like my brain was being scrambled. That's how it felt. And so I don't get scared because I realize that it's an experience that I am meant to learn and to overcome it. Now, the reason for bringing all of that up is because we go through this advanced shadow work, and the star people are actually training me how to have negative thoughts in the mind and how to take them and disengage them. And so what they're saying is you can take any thought process, any emotion as well, because you have a thought grid that's in your pineal gland and you have an emotion grid, which is in the lower heart chakra. And so these two things, one is yellow, one is blue. And when you put them together, they make your memory complex, which is green. It makes sense. It's logical because your memory complex being green is a combination of all your thoughts and emotions from this life as well as your past lives. And so now when you start to, we have lower vibrational entities on this planet. We call them attachments. The Bible calls them demons, whatever terminology that you guys, archons, reptilians, it doesn't, there's the star people are stepping forward and they're saying there's multiple types. However, they do feed off of our energetic grids. And so just imagine if you get triggered constantly. And so, but then you learn to master that emotion. That is of high value, because when you start to learn how to master those emotions and those emotions no longer bother you, it cross cancels the emotion and then you no longer need to have the experience. And so anytime you're having these negative thoughts in your mind or any lower toxic emotions in your grids, learning how to overcome them. Each and every single individual who tunes into the telepathic reality in which we are all manifesting, because that's what 5D is, we have to be aware of telepathic communication from extraterrestrial beings and how it is not always positive polarity. And so when they are teaching us to be able to have negative thoughts in our mind and be able to sideswipe them and throw them in the trash bin and not allow it to affect us, what they're doing is they're making us very strong, because when we start to go out into the solar system, there are beings who could potentially cast these negative thoughts into our minds, which is already happening on the planet. And so we have to be strong enough to say, not today, universe, right? And so you take any and all negative thoughts, cast it into the trash bin. Now, the Starman has taught me there's two buttons. And so one button is for your thought grid, and that one is yellow or white yellow. And then one is blue. That's your emotions. And so if you press them both, spin them together, now it turns green, and then just rotate that like you're rotating a dial. What you're actually doing is you're clearing your thought grid, clearing the emotion grid, putting them both together and sending them into the Akashic records. And so that's one great way, because I do it all the time. 1, 2, spin, it's done. So any thoughts and emotions that I'm having in the now moment that are not positively aligned, I 1, 2, 3 send them to the Akashic. And so that's it. They're gone. And the second that they're gone, you feel them discharge off of you. So there's no need for me to ever have that negative or toxic experience again. I send it love and light. I send it to the Akashic record. I don't need to hold on to that stuff. And so when you are having this feeling like you're misunderstood, you have to be allowing that to bother you on some level. So that thought, that emotion code has to be having an effect on you. So what you would want to do is also go inside your physical form. So when I start to clear out emotions, realize that emotions can also be trapped in the physical form. And so you want to take it from your biologics and you want to remove it. And so you can do that with a magnet. I usually show you guys, this one is a crystal magnet, magnetite. Somebody told me it was. And so this will actually pull the trapped emotions out of your physical body. And so that's a great tool to rub it on at least 10 times, right? And then command that thought or emotion to discharge off of you. And so now many times we start to see your energetic field will heal first, which then in turn starts the process of manifesting full health. And so this is how I was able to remove all my pain in 2019. And so I was a cripple. My spine was completely shifted. It was a nightmare. And so, but what happened was I started releasing all of these dense, dark emotions held in the physical form. I did this not realizing what I was doing, but then all of a sudden, my body started to heal. In 2.5 weeks, all my pain was gone. If I could do it, you guys can do it. And so, yeah, why do they feed off our grids? What is in it for them? So the lower vibrational attachments, we are a food source. And so we are trained to believe from a young age that we are at the top of a pyramid, which is a food triangle. And so we're the top, we're the smartest, nothing can get us. That's not true. The food is actually, it's a circle. It's circular in nature. And so have a look at it, and we know that we have parasites. Now, parasites can come inside of our bodies and they can mess stuff up, right? And so that is just one example about how we are circular. And so we know what place in that circle we are. Things can feed off of us. We have, there's a microbiome. And so there's tons of different organisms that are on the exterior of your skin that's feeding off you, but they're healthy and positive and beneficial. but that's still a life form that's still alive and it's feeding off of us. Well, these things they're energetic in their nature, and so we can't see them because the human eye only sees about 1% of this reality. And so they're ethereal. Now, I could feel them. I've always felt them. If I walk into a doctor's office, I've always gotten this like sense of claustrophobic, right? Or the room ever so slowly will start to shift. And I've always been like, what is this feeling? But now I can identify it, so I know when they're around. Now, some of them are very dense, they're very heavy, and they're very, very energy sucking. Like they can make you very sick right away. And so a lot of times when I was learning this process, I would, generate a white force field around me. None of that nonsense worked. And so it didn't work. I had to get up and move. Now, if you take a look at the Matrix, right, they tell you in the beginning, everybody runs. And that's what I was doing back then. I was running. I was getting up and I was changing location codes because I didn't want them to feed off of me. However, when you start to raise your frequency, it's very important because the more love and light that you hold inside of yourself, it takes you to a light spectrum in which they can't see you. So if they can't see you because you're holding all this love and light, then all of a sudden they're unable to feed off of you, which is very important because who doesn't want, no one wants these things on them. And so each and every one of the attachment, they have its own location. No, they have its own emotion coding, they're saying. And so the emotion coding, certainly you have to know their names. And so I do have a post on this. I'll try and post it up on Facebook so you guys can see afterward. And the one attachment that I had was called At Death's Door. And so there was a period when, you're a cripple, whatever, what you going to do? But I sat around and I'm like, damn, I just feel like I'm waiting to die. And that was the attachment. That's his name, At Death's Door. So when you start to figure out their names, right, it's always affiliated to what emotion code you personally are holding. And so some people have experiential attachments. And so like a hair loss, there's a hair loss attachment. So you may close your eyes, you may see what it looks like. Now that guy, he looks like he slides forward and it looks like a wig comes off of his head and then he's bald. That's an experiential attachment. So you can close your eyes. You could start to make contact and communication with the higher self, and you could start to ask the higher self. Now, another way of doing this is to get a notebook. And so you really always comes back to the notebook. I have 10 notebooks, and so every day I'm always writing. But you see, what behavior patterns are you holding? What experiences are you manifesting? And so if you're manifesting being misunderstood, I always go right in and I ask, is that an attachment? And so what does it feel like to be misunderstood? What is his name? Higher self, thank you for telling me that attachment's name. Oh, I'm misunderstood. That's the attachment's name. Okay, I'm misunderstood. Get off, go home. Now I just talk to him like he's a real person. And I tell him, get off of me and go home. That's it. I do not send them love and light because they are made from the void. And so if you have a look at the source frequency in the void, it is one frequency wave. And it's just like we see light and we see dark. Now the void is made of dark matter and the light is made of source. It's the same thing. It's just one frequency wave. It's just a different spectrum. And so when you know this, these beings are in the lower octave that's underneath our feet. And so they're made of dark matter. So when we send them love and light, we're calling in the source and it can potentially, it kills them. What are you going to do? It kills them. So we don't want to do that. We just want to tell them to get off and go home. And so, I was always very, thank you for your service, being all polite and stuff. And you shouldn't do that because, then they get hurt. So just tell them to get off. The void looks gray. Yes, I've seen it as gray, but most people understand light and dark. It's the same thing. So yeah, get rid of what is attracting them. Yes. And so there's always a primary experience or a moment or a memory of when was the first time we allowed this thing to latch onto us. And so you have to go in, and this is what people do from a physical perspective, right? They're like, when was the first time you ever experienced that? Okay, so you want to handle that from that perspective. That heals it too. And so when you go in and you're constantly focused on that, I'm healing the emotion code. That's a very physical focus. So, many times when you feel that emotion code come up, you have to handle that emotion. And so you write them down because then you have a list. When you have a list, you can go in, you can have a look into your list of all your behavior patterns. So what behavior patterns are you doing every single day? Are you waking up? Are you doing something positive, loving, caring, kind for your body, mind, spirit complex, the star person is saying. And so if you have negative behavior patterns, write it down. What's the pattern? And so let's say the pattern is, okay, I'm going to drink soda. Okay, so when was the first time I drank soda? How did it make me feel? A lot of times, also, like, because I had this one, but if you have an imbalance in the orange chakra, so that's your sacral chakra, and many times they will drink or over drink soda. And so you have to have a look at the traumas that you've had, because the trauma that you have has a behavior pattern associated to it. And so we don't always recognize the behavior pattern associated to what chakra or what energetic vortex system has the imbalance in it. And so when you start to put two and two together, you do your research, right? And so, okay, this is the behavior pattern. So research it. So what chakra is this behavior pattern? What organs, what system is this synchronized to? And then you figure out, okay, well, it's connected into the orange energetic grid. Okay. When was the emotion code? When was the trauma in that grid? And so then you go back to the first trauma. And so you would never think that an imbalance in the orange chakra had anything to do with drinking soda. It does. I know, because I've lived it. And so, but then all of a sudden, the second that you go in and you heal it, now you're drinking water. Right? So your entire life can change because you've done the shadow work. So we don't realize that there's an energetic imprint with each and every trauma that we experience. And so when you start to realize, okay, that trauma has this effect, that imagine the books that are going to be written in the future about trauma. And so nobody ever wants to talk about darkness. Darkness is yucky. We don't want to deal with it. But you know what the bottom line is that we're on a traumatized planet, and we need to have these conversations because we need to heal ourselves and we need to assist other people in healing. And so the second that you start to make it okay, let's dive in, right? And so let me figure out who I am. What are my traumas? Because this, all the trauma you're holding in the now moment. So what is it that I can heal about myself that will potentially change my life? It'll put me on a different timeline. It'll put me on something where I'm happy and healthy, right? It'll put me where I'm following my highest passion. So it's totally beneficial to each and every person to dive into your trauma, really see it, feel it, sense it. When was the first time you ever had the experience? How is my behavior patterns tied into my traumas? Everything is connected. So your behavior patterns are directly connected into each and every trauma. And so when you start to realize and go through all these things, you write it down, you make a list, because the star people are stepping forward and they're saying, when you have a behavior pattern or you have a trauma, you think you healed it, you write it down, you forget about it. Now, all of a sudden, let's say a month goes by, you open up the book, you reread a couple pages back. And so you reread that trauma. How did it make you feel? Did you feel any tension or tightness in the biological form? Did you feel the air shift around your body? How did it make you feel? Did you feel sad? Did you go into the heart? Did you pulse the heart? Now, the Arcturians have a way, because they do this with me, but they have a way of sending some type of frequency technology through my heart. And so I'm all tough. I'm not crying, right? And then they hit me with the frequency gun and it's tears, it's waterworks. So that's high technology. They can come in and they can do this for you guys as well. You just have to ask them to help you to facilitate the shadow work. They're going to start small. It's going to be baby steps. It's not going to be hitting you with a frequency, because it can cause disruptions. But ask them to do it and they will come in and they will assist you. So each and every person here, they want to have these conversations with us. They do not want channels. They do not want gatekeepers. They want the information to go worldwide. So tell all your friends, anyone who wants to communicate with them, just ask them and they will come in and they will help you. You have to realize that we're one planet. What do we have? Billions of people? Half the people aren't even awake on this planet. And so they have multiple planets, because the star people, it's the Andromedans, the Arcturians are here. We have angels, guides. There's tons of metaphysical people. There's so many different planets who are getting involved in this. And not only that, but Yoda, those green people with the ears, they're real. Who the hell knew? And so, but they're all love and light, and they're all about utilizing going inside yourself and utilizing the breath and changing the holographic simulation, and moving items with your mind and all the psionic abilities. All these things are absolutely true. And so if you do not believe, you will not see it. If you do believe, you will see great magic coming into your life. My life is very, very magical. And so when I wake up, I see amazing things. I see the possibilities. I see the potential of humanity. I see more and more people that I have sessions with, and then they bend spoons and they make lightning and they change the weather. I've changed the weather. I've made lightning. These things are real. I've instantaneously manifested money. If I can do it, you guys can do it. I've had a rough past. I've walked through fire. I got burnt. Right. So if I can do it, you can do it. There's no reason. But you have to go inside. You have to heal yourself. You have to believe. So what is it going to take to make you guys believe that these abilities are true? Dive into the quantum physics, right? And the sacred geometry. Because the second that you learn that there's a connection between every single living thing and everything is connected down at the subatomic levels, it's like a light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, everything is connected. So the love I have, the frequency that I radiate is going to have an effect on every single thing around me. So this is another reason why we are taught to bless our water. So the love that we encode into every single aspect of our existence is going to start to raise the frequency. And when we raise the frequency of everything in our life, all of a sudden it starts the process of healing us. And so think about it this way. I can sit here with this crystal. I can love and light this crystal every single day, and I can thank it for healing me. And then all of a sudden, I have this crystal in my pocket. Now, it's doing the same thing as a DNA activation, what the star people do all the time for everyone who watches the videos. They take the DNA activations, and then when you have this, it's changing your tune, which is your primary frequency. And so when you change your primary frequency, it is changing the process of manifestation of your physical reality, which if you held a regular quartz, I was really sick once. And so I was very depressed and miserable. And I picked up a piece of quartz for the first time. I felt my Kundalini snap into alignment. And I was like, what the hell was that? Right. And so that was a very human experience and very humbling because I was like, oh, there's something that I don't know about this world that they just showed me because they told me to get the quartz and I didn't know I was talking to them. I just thought it was me. And so when I got the quartz, I felt the energy pull up and I was like, there's more here than we are being told. And that sent me on a mission, right? So now I started researching crystals. Well, what the hell is quartz? And how does it, and so, but it sends you on the seeker path. And so when you seek this information, it will always find you. And so, I talk about gatekeepers a lot and how I don't like gatekeepers and all the stuff. But the truth of the matter is that the source frequency and the human consciousness grid, when you seek, you shall always find the information that you are properly attuned to. And so this is the process of manifestation. Now, when you seek, let's say you want to seek something like you want to have the ability to move an item using only your mind. That's still seeking because you're trying. You're putting the attempt in. You only have to do it one time. Because the second that you do it one time, now you've just proved that it's real. And so every single person should be sitting down with a tin foil, put it on a safety needle, put it in a tea light, and put a piece of glass over it so it's not you blowing. And just sit there with your hands and send love and light or energy or magnetism, whatever it is, Reiki energy, whatever you believe in, send it and just visualize that tin foil turning. You're connected to the tin foil. The tin foil is you. It is not the tin foil that turns. It is you shifting your frequency, which is putting you on another reality in which a tinfoil was already turning. That's the physics behind what's actually happening here. You are activating your true multidimensional nature. So we each have the ability and potential to shift. You're shifting billions of times with each and every heartbeat. And so when you know that we're shifting through time and space, we're shifting through location codes, we're shifting through frequencies, we're shifting through experiences. And so the second that you start to harness this ability, you can close your eyes. And so what do the manifestation coaches tell you guys to do? They tell you to visualize. What is happening when you visualize something? So you're visualizing, let's say you want to visualize an experience. And so close your eyes, visualize that experience, see it, smell it. How does it feel? Right? And start encoding your frequency with all of these emotion codes. And so when you start to take control of your emotion code that you are holding, it changes everything. Because now all of a sudden you're learning how to harness your frequency because each biological form is like a radio. And so you're either going to tune into this timeline or you're going to tune into this one. This one is positive. This one over here is not as positive. So where are you going to allow your radio to be? And so when you start to project more emotions of a positive, then all of a sudden your magnetism will shift and it will put you aligned with this frequency range. That is how this reality works. So each and every one of us, this is why whenever someone feels anxiety or tension or stress or, oh, they can't go on or any of the lower base emotions that are very physically focused, you have to stop everything. And so you stop everything that you're doing. You get triggered, stop everything, right? Just take a moment. Go close yourself, even if you have to lock yourself in the bathroom, right? You lock yourself in the bathroom so you're alone and just close your eyes and take a deep breath. go into the tiny chakra. It's not the tiny, it's the lower heart chakra. That's the tiny space where your higher self embodies. And just feel love. Feel an emotion that made you joyful, blissful, and whatever memory that you have to pull on to get your body to feel that love emotion, do it. And so it will make whatever trigger that you just went through, you may even laugh about it because it's not even a big deal that you just got triggered, right? And so sometimes you may feel this in traffic. And so what do? You just take a breath and just send them love and light. Come into your heart. Rebalance yourself. The better you are at rebalancing yourself with your triggers, that's mastery, because you want to be in emotional mastery. You want to be in your thought mastery. And so having the emotion and thoughts and being able to master them is exactly what allows you to go inside and make these changes to your primary frequency. When you start to change your primary frequency, you are going to be the one who sees the changes. And so a lot of times, if there are people who are not believers, they will not see the changes that you see. And so we talk about the UFOs. I can go outside right now. I can see a UFO. I see them all the time. But I've had non-believers sit next to me and they're like, that's a satellite. So their belief systems are not allowing them to see my magic and my reality. Now, they blink at me, so I know that they're my friends, right? They're always with me. So, and I've also seen them very low to me. Like they were right above the trees, zipping in and out of the reality, left and right, making 90-degree turns. So, at this point, it's just, you either believe or you don't. Right. And so I've seen them. I know the magic is real. Now, there's stories, too, about different earlier indigenous tribes. And so they didn't know what a boat was. And so when the people arrived in this giant boat, they took a small boat to the shore. And so the indigenous people, they couldn't see the boat. It's a holographic simulation. Your belief system is going to allow your eyes to either see and perceive, or it's going to be shut. And so this is how the shade system works. So when we talk about the shade system, just imagine that there's a sunglasses lens over your energetic grid. The more traumas you have, the more sunglasses lens you'll have built up. That buildup is density. That density causes a distortion or a disease to manifest. And so when they start talking about the shade system, it's what darkness or what density do you have in your energetic grids. All of that stuff it's allowed there by your emotions and your thoughts. And so if you think something, you believe something, it allows it to manifest. And so everything in your physical reality starts in your energetic grids. Everything. And so this is another reason why the star people are stepping forward and they're saying, talk about the paper cuts. When you have an attachment, let's say you discharge the attachment. So I'm sad, get off, go home. Now, all of a sudden, let's say I'm sad was latched onto your energetic grids right here. There's a little paper cut that allowed that attachment to latch onto your energetic grids. He's not alone. I'm sad, that attachment, there's a million of him. And so when you go and you walk into the civilization, then all of a sudden you can latch, another I'm sad will latch onto you. And I feel you. I know that you're here. So when you do this and you go through and you clear the attachment and then you clear the energetic grids, you send it love and light and you heal that. Then all of a sudden that attachment is no longer allowed to latch onto you. And so you just have peace, release it, and then you have to go through and clear your grids. Many times the star people are saying, as well as clearing the grids, you want to go and get into a saltwater bath, because that saltwater bath is also going to fine tune the emotional grids. And so your emotional grids, whenever you release an attachment, I want you to imagine the attachment firing up that emotion. And so he does not want to get off you. Many times they'll run down the grid as well. Now, I felt the meridians and ley lines when the star people did my healing. And so they were able to pull at the meridian and I would feel the entire energetic line. This is also how they were able to levitate me up off of my bed. It's because they were pulling at these energetic lines, which had a physical effect on me. And so when we know that these things have an effect, we know that we have to clear them. So some ways that we can go and we can rebalance the energetics is by taking saltwater baths, because the emotions directly have an impact on your energetic grids. The energetic grids I want you to see as multicolored. However, we see the 7 primary colors. There's actually 12 in this physical reality. That is this octave. The octave above our head is a different light spectrum. That's 5D. It's a different color spectrum. And so you won't be able to see it unless you were granted access. And so when you have this primary chakra system, I want you just to imagine that your perception flows down your physical form, except it's not just a single line or a tube, right? It's a triangle that flows like the DNA. So it spirals in a vortex type of energy. It comes down you. Your primary perception is which one of these colored chakras that you choose to view out of. So if you know physically focused people, their perception is stuck in the root chakra, which is red. And so their perception allows them to see their life as physically focused. And so they have to go to work, make money, eat, sleep, all these things. It's a physical perception. When you start to change your perception, you start to activate. These are called source frequency lenses. And so each one of the chakra system has a different lens. It has a different color. It has a different frequency. Now, your chakra system goes like this. So this is a sacred geometry. And so you'll notice that all the chakras work like this. This is why there's an upper heart chakra and a lower one. The lower one is where the higher self comes in. And so when you take a look at the energetic grids, imagine there's different colors overlapping each other. Your perception or your emotional frequency is going to activate which color you can see in the aura field, they're saying. So many of you guys can see aura fields. And so if I'm happy, joyful, and excited, you might see green, right? Because my heart chakra is wide open. So you may perceive my energetic grids being green. That's because the energetic grids, they overlap each other. It's every single color. And so it kind of looks like a white light, but that's because they're saying the extra 5 in the color spectrum that we don't see the colors, but they're there. It makes the aura field look white. But if we have a strong emotion, our perception is flowing through that chakra system, which allows the energetic to look a certain color. And so, yeah, it's just amazing. I don't know how you guys posted images. That's really cool. Does anybody have any questions? Actually, I have a list of questions. I think I only tuned into one. Okay, let's see. Okay, so one of the people had a time glitch. So the clock read 00.00, and then it went right back to normal, except she experienced like a quiet shift. And so we are able to flow through time and space. We are able to perceive time and space glitches. A deja vu is one of those glitches. Now, if you took a deep breath in, and let's say you did Wim Hof's breath work. So 30 deep breaths, and then you're holding your breath, right? Now you have to hold your breath for 1 minute. You have to hold your breath for 2 minutes, depending on the round. When you do that, time space seems to warp a little bit. So you're bending time space because it's your perception that is bending. So when you start to take control of the time space frequency, it's directly controlled by your emotion code. So if your emotion code is very high, time is going to fly. This is the way we start to bend time and space. And so when we really start to focus on happiness, joyfulness, bliss, and we start to focus on following our highest passion. Now, many times people who are in sports, they may perceive their sport, and so they're getting into a zone of focus. Artwork is the same thing. When you're painting a picture, or let's say channeling, I'm getting into a complete zone of focus. And so that zone of focus, time flies when you're in it. And so that is how you start to access 5D frequency, or you are accessing the time space frequency wave. Now, what happens when you feel like you're sad? And so time may seem to drag. And so when you're in trauma or tragedy or like a car accident, time seems to go so slow. And so, but we know this. So now we know that emotion plays a role on time and space. Emotion plays a role on everything, including the thoughts that you feel, because they are magnetically attracted to you. Experiences are magnetically attracted to you. So when you are seeing a time glitch, there's no doubt in my mind that you have some sort of time ability, and that time ability needs to be further explored. All of us have the ability to manipulate or control time. And so, but it is all about whether or not you're putting your focus and your perception on it. Now, some people have attunements. And so this is what I do during my sessions. I tell you guys what you have an attunement to. Now, the attunement could be something like you have a water bending ability, or you are an airbender, right? And so that's a magnetic attunement that you can manifest that ability. The truth of the matter is that there's 365 extrasensory abilities encoded into the DNA. The DNA is directly controlled by codons, which means you either turn them on or you turn them off. Now, each and every one of us can place focus on any and all of these extrasensory abilities. We could turn them all on, we could turn them all off. It's all about what you desire. And so the more you put your focus, your perception, your desire, your goal, your heart, you have to pour your heart into something. Pour it into activating one of these abilities. See how long it takes you to get the job done. The star people told one lady to bend a spoon. She bent 5, right? But what did she do? She just put her focus into it. We can do these things naturally. We can do them now. Every one of us can do it now. You just have to put your focus. The amount of time it takes you to manifest this is completely up to you. So I advise each and every one of you guys to try and do it now. Whoa, I just checked my phone when you said that about images, and I saw that it was me, but I didn't do those. My phone just did it. Yeah, that's amazing. And so, yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I have a whole list. There, what are you going to do? Okay. Contact in dream time. How our star families assist our manifestations of the physical reality. So this is something that my Arcturian, my starman, has actually done for me many times. And so in my dream time, I recently had a dream that I was holding a firework and the firework went off and I was like, oh, I didn't get hurt. So then I was like, let me see if my car will get hurt. So I put the firework on my car. And then all of a sudden I heard him say, no. And then I woke up out of the dream. And so then he told me, yes, he was protecting me inside that dream because my car would have gotten damaged. Now, not even a couple days after, I had my oil changed. And then all of a sudden the oil was leaking all over the street. So if, the situation could have went much worse, right? And my car could have potentially been damaged, leaving me without a car. And so they are able to make contact and communication and change our manifestations in the dream time. Now, the dream time works completely differently than the physical reality. It's more instantaneous. You don't need to sit there and change your magnetism in the dream time. So you can see it, it's already there because you're in the astral realm. And so that's it. When you start to do this, your star families can send you messages. Many times they'll send you synchronicities. They'll send you animal guides. They will send you signs. Or let's say, for an example, you're about to manifest a disease or some crazy things are going to happen. Then all of a sudden, they'll send you a sign in your dream, and then you'll be aware of it because they make sure that you wake up and you remember the dream. So just be aware. It's okay. Now, many times they're stepping forward and they're saying the dream walker ability. So the dream walker ability is pertaining to when an individual goes into the dream state and then they become lucid. When you become lucid in the dream state, then you can start making changes or modifications, which then in turn is going to manifest. Someone watching the video, they're saying, has the ability to change the civilization ring. There's 3 rings on top of the crown chakra. And so this is connected into the 12-pointed Merkaba field. It's 3 different layers to it. And so the secondary layer changes the location codes and the civilization. And so when we know this, one of you guys has a dream walker ability where you can affect that ring. Now, of course, this video is going to be playing through time and space, so it doesn't have to be right now. They're saying you could be watching this video 6 months from now. You'll still know because you're going to get full body chills if it's you. And so during the dream walker ability, this is a big ability in which you can change the actual civilization frequency. And so you can bring peace to the entire earth for all of us. Now, many times in their civilization, they have a minimum of 3 people practicing this every single night to bring peace, love, and joy to the entire civilization as a whole. And so when we start to open and activate unity consciousness, things like this are going to be manifest. And so, yeah, that's beautiful. Did you talk about time and glitches yet? Yes, I'm sorry. It's already on. That was like one of the second ones I started with. Okay, so somebody did a guided meditation. Then she opened her eyes in what felt like a minute. So she got to the end of the meditation too quick. So she lost 30 minutes. So that's another time. And I didn't even remember writing that. That's another time-space manipulation. And so I've had the experience where I was doing a meditation, and when I opened my eyes, I felt like I had just pulled so much source frequency into my body that I felt run down before. That's why I went into the meditation. But when I came out of the meditation, I felt like a brand new person. And so we do have the ability to pull so much ether into our body at once. This is a real thing. You guys can try it and just visualize. Now, there's ether all around us. These are light ions. We are living, we're bathing in it, right? And so the 0 point is basically an area in which positive and negative polarity, but you're right in the middle of it. And so when you go to that space where you're not expecting anything, you're not expecting to wake up out of your meditation with all this energy, but however, if it happens, it would be nice and polite and pleasant. So you just go into that space and just thank the universe for filling you with it. Now, when this happens, all of a sudden, you're going to feel all these little light ions come into you. This is the ether, right? We're made of this stuff. We are light frequency beings. And so you can command it to come in during your meditations. A lot of times when you do this, it's raising the biological frequency so rapidly that time-space will automatically seem to fly. That's what the star people are saying. So yeah, it's beautiful. Yes. And so you're not crazy when things like that happen. And so I've had experiences where I was driving and then all of a sudden it's like the race, the GPS, right? Everyone has played that at one point or the other. Let me see if I can beat the GPS. We beat it by an hour, right? And so, but there's also been times when we're driving and then we had a second car leaving the same destination, going to the same destination, but then we stopped for food or something. And then we all arrived at the same time. And so back then we just all, we chopped it up to, oh, maybe they were driving slower, but we stopped to get food for like 45 minutes. There was no way. And so, yeah. How would I know my guides? How can we connect with our guides so they can guide me with my purpose? Thank you and happy holidays. Many love and blessings to you. And so knowing your guides is like knowing yourself because your guides are directly tuned into the frequency of yourself. And so when you start to be okay inside with having these experiences, many times we have to go through this whole process of I'm crazy, I'm not crazy. I'm crazy, I saw a UFO. I'm crazy, I'm not crazy. You have to get over all that, right? And so getting over all that is part of releasing resistance. And so when you're okay having these type of conversations inside your mind. And so I had to do this too, because the second I realized I was channeling them, I was like, that little voice in my head is just talk to me. That is totally crazy. Who is going to believe that? And now here it is 3 years later, and I'm telling all you guys, it's okay to do this, right? And so you can kind of see it's like you have to get over it. You have to allow it. You have to release the resistance, and then all of a sudden it will fully manifest into your reality. So knowing your guides is like when I pick onto the information about who you guys have an attunement to in the solar system. So many times they give me 3 different guides, and I've gotten all 3 of them correct for people before. Like they've written them down a week before. I was on the Tina show, live with Tina. And so I sent her my notes and she was like, oh my God, you got all 3 of mine right. So I'm like, yeah, the star people do, right? It's not me. And so, but when you know the magnetism, you can tell. And so from doing all this energy work, I know what it feels like to have an Arcturian around. I know what it feels like. My primary sense is feeling. And so how do I feel when there's an angel in the room? There's like love, joy, and bliss straight away. The Magdalene Collective, right away. It's love, joy, and bliss. And I'm like eternally thankful for them to even interact with me. And I feel very humble and blessed. And so even the angels, that's how it feels. Now, the Arcturians, the Andromedans, the Lyrians come through, right? How does it feel? So you close your eyes. How would it feel to have one of these beings in your presence? Well, let's do the Arcturians, right? So they're really playful. They're giddy. They're very tall. Their head is bigger. Their eyes are a little bit bigger than ours, right? And so their fingers are different. How does it feel to have them in the presence, right? How would you guys feel to have one of these beings standing in front of you? Would you be joyful and excited and you want to interact with them? And I have a billion questions, right? So how do we do this, this, and this? That's what I feel. And so the second that you allow that feeling to wash over you, right, then you can start to make the contact and communication and just allow it to manifest. And so they will come and they will start talking small as the voice inside of your mind. Keep talking to it. It is okay. Yeah, let me see. I know I'm one of them that's going to change our civilization. Feminine energy is going to show up, the twin flames. Yeah, the feminine energy is already becoming activated. And so it actually becomes activated in the solar energetics, which has an effect on the Schumann resonance, which we can already see that there's a giant spiritual movement happening across the planet right now. And so the spiritual movement is basically like you waking up to this divine information. And so much of this information has been written about in all these ancient texts, and it's been hidden from us. And so now the internet seems very like jumbled with information. So nobody really knows what to believe anymore. However, there's a reason for that as well, because when you stop looking for the information outside your door and you start going into your heart. it will put you in alignment with the Akashic records and the source frequency so that you can make instantaneous downloads of any and all information that you need in the now moment. And so many individuals have memory complex abilities. The memory is directly connected into the plasma of the blood system as well as the plasma of the earth. And so there is also a crystalline core of Mother Earth. And so when we start to see plasma abilities, we start to see people tuning into the energetics of Mother Earth's complete history as well as the Akashic record history, because it's all energetically encoded. And so when you start to allow yourself these experiences, it doesn't matter what you wish to see. If you wish to see a library and books and you have to sit there and read them, that is what you will see. If you wish to have more direct, like rapid communication, then you will just wham, get a download and you'll just have the information that you need. And so any of these experiences is fine, because either way, you're activating your true multidimensional ability. And so when you sit there and you say, this is the way I want it, you can't have any expectations. You just say, I want the information. Give it to me whatever possible way it's going to manifest. I don't care. Just give me the information. I want to know. Right. And then you kick back, you put your focus into it. Right. You put your heart into it. And then all of a sudden, all the information is going to find its way to you. So whether or not you have it spontaneously, say an extraterrestrial came and just pulsed it all into your mind, he's helping you. He's facilitating the manifestation process. Or whether you have a memory ability and your plasma fired up and you automatically downloaded it, that's fine too. It's all a manifestation. We're in a simulation. So whichever way that you and your higher self choose to manifest is okay. It's absolutely okay for each and every one of us to have our own experiences. And so when you have your own experience, no way is correct. There's no way that's correct. There's a billion people on this planet. Everyone is holding similar tragedies and traumas because we all go through similar experiences. And so your perception is what makes that experience different than mine. And that's okay too. And so my way of healing is not necessarily going to be your way of healing. You guys could go, and I've always been that kid to my own beat and my own drum. I had to do everything myself. Even if a million people told me not to do it, you're going to get hurt, I'd do it anyway. Right? I don't know why. It's just, that's the way I work. And so, but that's okay too, because it's only an experience and we are meant to go through all these traumas and tragedies because it's magnetically something that we manifested so that we would grow, learn, and evolve. And so by going through all of this stuff in the physical reality, it's basically like a playground at this point, because now all of a sudden there's so many advanced light workers on this planet that you could take them, you could drop them into any single situation. And so you could take away all of their money. You could take away everything that they own. You could put them on a street with just the clothes on their back. And guess what? They will survive. They will figure it out. And so now they actually have a TV show where they're taking billionaires and they're pretending that they have zero money and they're dropping them into the civilization and seeing if they could remanifest $1 million in 30 days. And guess what? They're doing it because we are meant to survive. And so each and every one of you, if you have that willpower and you have that mindset of I can do anything that I put my mind to, I'm a survivor, right? And so it changes the entire game because now it doesn't matter. Anything that they throw at you, even with the nonsense that just happened in the civilization, right? We got to a point where they were like, oh, that's going to happen? It doesn't matter. We'll deal with it. Right. And so it made us rise above it and evolve above it. And then we lost the fear. And then all of a sudden, everything came off and we started putting that down and we started actually going back into the civilization and hugging people again and being love and light with people. Right. And so whatever negativity or physically focused experiences that we have, it is okay because we are here to evolve above it. And it is during that process that we learn the most about ourselves. How did you guys handle yourself? Did you handle yourself with love and compassion? Is there any areas? And so I ask myself this constantly. I'm just like you guys, right? So I'm always reevaluating. Is there any areas where I could have handled myself with more grace? Can I be humbled, right? And was I compassionate? Did I scream? Did I curse at someone when I was driving? Did I say thank you for every single negative experience, no matter how small or big, right? And so you ask yourself these questions. That's only something that you can answer for yourself. And so you really go inside and you make peace with every single experience that you've had. When you make peace with it, you're releasing the resistance of that experience, which then in turn, it's like cross-canceling all the emotions that you're holding on to, right? I made peace with the experience. I'm over it. And so the second you're over it, you're discharging those emotions, which allows you to heal. And so there is nothing greater than guiding and assisting other people to heal through what you have already experienced, because that's it. But the people have to be ready to heal on their own. You cannot force anyone to heal. And that's actually a very important topic, because some people are very, very physically focused, and this has been coming up left and right. And so people who are very physically focused, I had this experience with my family. And so they were just not ready to wake up. Right. And so we always want our family to wake up. We want them to, go to 5D with us. We want them to be happy and really instantaneously manifest and stop working so hard, because things could be much easier for us. And we want this for our loved ones because we care about them. We love them. We want to see them do what we are doing, and it's working. And so, but sometimes you have to release resistance. And so what that means is, okay, they are free as a divine being to have their own experience, even if it means that they have to fall on their face. And so many times parents are given this experience because they have to release their kids. Your kid they have to make their own decisions as adults. They have to learn from their own experiences. There's nothing that you can do. If they're going to do it, they're going to learn from it. Then you could just be there to give them a hug when they're done. Right. And you could be there for support, but they have to have their own experiences. Right. And so you have to let it be. And when you let it be, what you're actually doing is you're releasing your energetics shift. And in turn, now all of a sudden, the people who weren't waking up, now they start waking up. So it's the best thing that you could do. Now, I've started releasing everyone. Right. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but now I know, because now I went through the process with the star people. But they said by releasing everyone, what you're actually doing is you're cutting all the energetic cords. And so we always talk about cutting energetic cords. So the way that it was portrayed to me was, you take the cords, you clip them, right? You send them back in love and light. That's great. But you have to match the emotion of it's okay to release you. And so the second that it's okay to release them, you guys go back into your reality, and I love you, I'm going to send it with love and light. Then all of a sudden, that's when the cord actually becomes fully released. When you do that, if you're holding any density in your energetic grids that you may have noticed, that density was cast upon your other friends or family, right? And the second that you do a cord cutting, they may heal themselves. Who knew? Right. And so you really have to ask yourself, well, what was I holding in my energetic grids that was making that density? You'll start to see these are called reflections. And so every single reflection, or every single individual in the physical reality, is a direct reflection of something that you needed to experience in order for you to grow and evolve. And so you may even have the experience of having a conversation with someone, and the exact identical words are coming out of your mouth or coming out of that person's mouth. So then it's another holographic simulation reflection showing you that there's only one organism having this conversation here. Mind blown, right? And so I've had that experience with my cousin. And so I couldn't believe it, because it came to a point in time where I hadn't spoken to her in over 6 months, right? And so on the day that she called me, she was having a problem with her ex pertaining to car insurance. And on the same exact day, I was having a problem with my ex pertaining to car insurance. And so it was just like you could completely see the mirror reflection. And I was like, oh my God, me and her are totally one, right? And so solar energetics will allow those experiences to fully manifest. Thank you. I finally understand that about releasing everyone. I love to have their own experience. Yes. Wow. Awesome. Very, very good. Yeah, you have to release. And so that's a two-way street, though, because sometimes the star people are saying they'll have an energy cord. They'll be pulling off of us, right? They'll be draining our energy, or we'll be projecting our negative energy on them. And we don't realize it. We think that we're all love and light. But if you have a distortion or something in your energetics, now this also pertains to your animals, because familiars, a lot of the times your familiars, they take the blunt for the human first. And so let's say, for an example, the human is about to manifest the disease. Your animal is your familiar, because your energetics are familiar to one another. And so this passes from lifetime to lifetime. However, the animal will take the hit first, meaning the animal will manifest the distortion or disease that you are about to manifest. So if you are about to manifest a life cycle ending, which is like a death, you may notice a loss of an animal. And so this, we went to a psychic once when I was a kid, and the psychic said, oh, you're going to lose an animal because the animal is going to save your life. And so then we had a bird, my favorite bird, his name was Snickers. I loved him to pieces. And so he died on my mom's birthday. And so then I was really happy and grateful because I was like, oh my God, the psychic was right. He saved my mom's life. As now I've aged, it's been 20 something years. Now I've seen it happen multiple times. So now I know exactly how it happens. I know the signs, I know the signals. And, we recently experienced a loss of 2 cats. And so I know the 2 cats were taking a hit from me because it's something I had going on. So this is real. And so my uncle also had a tiny dog, and the tiny dog had a heart issue. And so when you picked him up, you could hear the thump, 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 thump in his heart. And so my uncle had a heart issue. And so start to pay attention to that, because that's a familiar. It's taking on your energy. And so when you start to do cord cuttings, then you're transmuting that energy, and it's not going to have that effect. But once again, those animals are a mirror reflection of something that we needed to see. And so by us being allowed to see, okay, well, wait a minute, they're manifesting a disease. So let me take a step back. Maybe let me go have my blood checked, and let me see if something funny is going on inside of me. Maybe that's an indicator that I need to pay attention to something inside of me, right? And so treat it like that. That's how I treat anytime I have a familiar with me or an animal. A lot of times my cats just showed up. So they picked me, I didn't pick them. And so, but then I started noticing, and then I've even had animals show up at the moment of death, right? And so we had this cat. Now I think the cat might have been mine, but then he left, and then he came back to die. And so he showed up one day, and he had gotten hit by a car, and his rear end was all injured. It was too late. There was nothing we could do for him. And so we called animal control so that they would pick him up. But that moment that I had with him was so intimate during that time. And it was just like I was able to send him so much love and light and allow his spirit to be at peace, knowing he wasn't going to die alone. Right. And so this is something that each and every one of us can experience too, because it's kind of like a gift to that animal. But that gift comes back on us because it was a blessing to be there for him and to allow his transition. Now, when we actually spend the moment of death with an animal, this is very, very important. Any animal, it doesn't matter. So your loved pets, you should always have an individual who loves the animal there at the moment of death, if you can, because it allows that animal to jumpstart the reincarnation process, and they're able and allowed to come back as a humanoid figure. Yeah. And that's deep, because now instead of coming back as a cat and then a dog and then an elephant or something else or a whale, right, they get to jump the line. I have one of my cats that we recently lost. His name was Munchkin. And so when he was a baby, I used to rock him. And he was encoded with so much love that everyone who walked into the house, he used to hug and kiss everybody, right? And so he was a very loving, caring, kind cat. And so we actually went through this whole process of, my kid's father had to come and hold him. And so his soul waited and went through all this agony, waited for him. And then as soon as we were going to take him down, his soul decided to exit at the time when I just turned the key off and I was like, we're going to go inside. And then he was done. And so, but in that moment, what did we learn from witnessing that? One, it was a very beautiful experience for me. But 2, the soul has some type of control over the time of death. That's very, very important, because especially with all this nonsense in the civilization, if your soul has some sort of control over your time of death, what does that mean for us? We're the ones in control of the entire holographic simulation. And so you can tell when a soul is about to discharge from here, because your energy grid, now it's normally a good 6 feet out for most people. It's advanced if you're a very loving, caring kind and you've done the energy work to broadcast it wider. Now, when a soul is about to depart, the soul will come inwards. And then all of a sudden, it takes on that vortex and it gets pulled back up. But there's still some soul that gets left inside the physical form. This is important to know, because your fingernails and your hair, I know this is such a deep conversation. Your fingernails and your hair, they continue to grow after the time of death. So we're not handling the bodies correctly, because if there is any life left in that physical form, right? And so this is the reason why the Egyptians would mummify them, right? And so it was taken with very care and delicacy. And so many times they would be laid out for several days in a certain environment until the light ions discharged. Now, a regular human being sitting in a chair, you're leaving a light impression for 30 days where you are sitting right now. Every single one of you, whatever location you're in right now, you're leaving light ions there for 30 days. That's the way the simulation works. And so the time of death, you're leaving a residual energy transference. And right? And so we want to take that into consideration. Thank you for your experience. That moment shared is incredible. Yes, thank you. I've also had a similar experience, and the knowing that it's happening is awesome. It really was. It was absolutely incredible, because just to see it, it was like, it was pure love, joy, and bliss. Like, you just saw both of them looking into each other's eyes, and you just knew that the cat and my kid's father, they love one another. And so in that moment, they became one. And that's when the cat felt safe enough, right, to depart. It was just, I'll never forget it. It was just so, it was just a blissful experience to witness. It was beautiful. Yeah. And so, but not only that, like even the elderly, and so the people who are in hospice care, right? And so we can go and we can share that moment with them. We can just stand over them and we can project love at them. We could tell them it's okay, right? And so it brings a new meaning to the life or death cycle. And so we do it when people are coming into the world, right? Everyone's all happy and go lucky and loving, caring, kind. And so, but even like, I find myself crying when people are going to go, right? And so it's very emotional. But the second that we stop that, right, and instead of crying, it's we love you, right? And we hold that love, joy, and bliss, it changes everything for the departure. And so you don't even know, because you can completely change the life cycle of a soul by sending them love at the moment of their death. Because if the soul feels loving, caring, kindness at the moment of their death, their next reincarnation, they may overcome the cycle of life and death as a whole. So the potentials are limitless. And the Egyptians knew about this too, because they talk about the Book of the Dead, right? So this is another topic that needs to be explored. Now, certain civilizations in the solar system, they know this too, because they have bodies. And so they have soul technology. So they can pull your energy signature, which is what they're calling it. They can pull your energy signature out of you using like a soul forge. And so they just transfer it into another body. Right now, there's always going to be an energy signature still there. It's like the Ba and the Ka, right? And so it's two aspects of the soul. And so your Ka, your physical form, is still going to be made of your soul form. And so that stays here. That stays in your physical form. However, because you have that signature of frequency, he's saying that if you save the frequency signature, in the technology advances to such a degree, it shall allow the civilization to pull the soul back into the physical form, because the binary codex frequency, he's saying. So that's why the Egyptians mummified people. That's deep. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? A combination of you both knowing a reality. Yeah, definitely. And so what is a reality? It is knowing the self, right? And when we start to see it like that, we know ourselves, because everything in the reality is part of the self, and we're here to know ourselves. And so myself, I'm a primary in my experience. This is my perception. This is my reality. But you guys, each one of us is a different soul. We're all connected to some degree, but you guys are all different souls experiencing your own primary reality. And so we just co-experience together. That's what this is, right? We all co-experience this video together right now, because you guys showed up, I showed up. Now we're having this great conversation. This is a co-experience of this. And so this is the same exact way that the physical reality works, because we have our own independent timelines, and we have our own independent frequencies that give us our experiences that we need to learn from. And so it could be raining or snowing here by me. It could be sunshine by you. And yet we could still coexist. It's a different reality. And so this is the true nature of humanity. We are multidimensional. This is what this means. Let's break it down into simple physical terms so that we can take this information and change our entire life, right? That's what I want to do. That's what I'm helping you guys to do. Mind blowing. You just never know where your sessions will go. Yeah, I never know. I was not expecting to talk about death. Like, that's not something I do, but it's not really up to me. I let it roll. Yeah. Can I ask them about Middle Earth? Do we work with them if we've had past lives with them? So Middle Earth, there's parallel realities. There's multiple dimensions and densities. And so maybe in your reality, there are people in Middle Earth. In my reality, there's definitely people in Middle Earth. And when you astral project, I've went into the center of the earth and there was fire beings there. And so it terrified me. I'm not going to lie. I was scared, right? And so, but then I saw them on the TV show. This was years and years and years ago. But we were watching TV, and the TV show Constantine came up. And so in the opening credits of Constantine, the TV show, they showed the fire beings. And I was like, oh my God, I seen them. I went into the center Earth and that's what they look like. And of course, the star people were like, yes, this is confirmation that what you saw was true. So it's like you had an experience, and then all of a sudden you got confirmation that what you saw, you're not crazy. That's how that happened. So, and of course, the star people can change everyone's mind. And so it's the relationship I have with them is wild and crazy. And like, I know what they can do fully. And so, but like, if let's say they wanted you to become a believer, their psionic abilities are up there on the scale. So they can actually project that thought into your mind. And then you would have the thought and you would think that that thought was you. And then all of a sudden you're a believer. That's psionic abilities. That's accessing unity consciousness. Now, of course, they only do it for positive, loving, caring kind. Now, even doing the negative shadow work with me, right? And so I had to agree to it. I agreed to allow all the negativity so I could take it, sideswipe it, throw it in the trash bin, and I could become stronger. This is like a master class for me. And so I knew I could handle it. So I don't hold resentment towards them. I'm not angry at you, but it happens, right? And so when you allow these experiences, you're becoming stronger from the experience of the lower frequency. So going into the Middle Earth, even though it might have been scary for me in the moment, it showed me that there's a lot more here than I am even aware of. And so it humbles me, because we can have, you guys can go in your astral form and go up into the solar system. You could see for yourself, and so I encourage each and every one of you, start meditating. Start pulling yourself out of your body. It's easier to do at 3:33 in the morning. And so that's the veil is like the slippery. So a lot of times I spent over a year and a half waking up at 3:33 in the morning every single morning. It was like clockwork. And so the star people do DNA activations, your spirit family. So like, let's say your great grandmother, maybe she passed away, right? And so the soul forms try and make contact and communication at that time. It's kind of like a grand solar reset time, is what they're saying. And so it allows them to make contact and communication at an easier frequency, because it's like similar to solar noon. So solar noon on planet Earth, and it's not when the iWatch tells it to you, because I have a thing that tells us when solar noon is. It's telling us when 12 o'clock noon is. That's not solar noon. If you took the alignments of all the planets, when you're in alignment with the center of the universe, that is true solar noon. All of us, our telepathy and psionic abilities, they become amplified during solar noon. So that's when we have different religions. They're saying, I didn't even know this, they're having different religions around the planet who were told to pray or manifest or bless or astral project or whatever words you guys want to use. They were told to do it at a certain time. And so centuries and centuries ago, that time was appropriate, but it's really solar noon, because it like enhances your astral projection and your lucidity and all sorts of psionic abilities that we have. So you guys can go, they have to have some way online where we can figure out when our time zone and our solar noon is, and then start setting your watch for these times. They're going to be slightly off because solar noon changes, they're saying. And so just set the time and do the meditation. Very important. Is it okay to eat magic mushrooms? I cannot tell you to do that. And so for me personally, when I was in high school, I smoked marijuana once. Well, yeah, once was the beginning of that. And so I smoked with a bunch of people. And so everyone else was fine. I was high for 6 months. And so my pineal gland is very, very, very sensitive. And so I didn't like it. I made my mom take me to the doctor. Of course, I was a kid and they were like, there's nothing wrong with you. I was like, my ears were like for 6 months straight. Like I couldn't hear. Everything was like a high pitched ringing, and everyone was like, there's nothing wrong with you. Your ears are fine, right? And like my vision. So I saw the timeline switches, the way that whole flicker ratio works for that experience. And so, but it happened for 6 months. And then I was talking to angels and all sorts of stuff. So I would never tell anyone to take a psychedelic. You guys have to do your own thing, because I'm not a doctor. I don't know what's going to happen to you. What if it's laced? Right. And so New York was actually reporting now, because I know people. And so they were reporting that their marijuana was getting laced with fentanyl. And so people were dying. So you just have to be super careful what you guys are getting out there, because it's not medicinally grown and even if it is medicinally grown, Are they genetically modifying it? So it's all up to you, not me. I can't tell you to do that. Yeah. Okay. So let me see. Okay. Are there any more questions? Energetic transference and effect of negative polarity people in your energetic rings. Okay. So that's funny because that was actually the last lives, but I don't think I covered that one. Maybe I did. So okay. Let's say somebody has a thought of you. Okay, so you go through negative or lower frequency experiences with a person, right? Maybe they're your ride or die. Now all of a sudden they have a thought of you. And so this is the way that they perceive you. And so we spoke about cutting the energetic cords, right? And releasing. I release everyone, every single person I release, right? And so when you do that, you're cutting the cords. What happens if you're not doing that correctly, or you just think that you're cutting the cords and then the cord is still there? That person has a thought. And so that thought could have an energetic transference on you. It could potentially mess up your manifestations, although it depends, because it's all about if you are going to allow it to mess up your manifestations. Now, the star people have been telling me for years, don't tell anybody what it is that you want to manifest until you already have it. So you better have the keys to your brand new car before you go running your mouth, because you never know if people are jealous or all that stuff. All of that emotion codes could have an effect on your frequency, which could change the manifestation, or it could even delay it. And so just be aware of that, right? And so you just don't tell anyone, just handle your business and make it happen. Now, let's say you're living with someone, and so that someone automatically is going to have an energy effect on you. So this boils down to, and this is a lot of people have been going through this too, the empath and the narcissist cycle. And so let's say you're around someone who's very toxic, right? You know how it's very difficult to pull yourself into a happy, positive mindset when you're around toxicity. And so unless you are tuned into a very, very high frequency and you have learned to just completely block that out, it's going to have an effect on you. And so sometimes you need to cut people loose, right? And you need to take them out of your energetic ring, because you're going to allow yourself to rebalance, recode, and be healthier and happier during that process. Sometimes it may be worth it to stick around and add more love and light back through the cord, which then could potentially change that individual. And so, but it always starts with self-love as well, because you have to love yourself enough to take the time to add more love into that relationship and make it change, right? Or watch it change and release the resistance and allow it to change or manifest. So now, if you take a plant and you are casting negative energy at the plant is going to shrivel up and die. If you're casting positivity at the plant, it's going to grow tenfold. Now, new studies have shown that your environment, it has such an impact on you. And so when we see someone who's all love and light, and then you drop them in a toxic environment, are they fully going to flourish? No, they're not, because they're in a toxic environment and their fight or flight system becomes activated. And now they're struggling, even though everything in their life may be going correctly, but it's still the energy of the location code is going to play an impact. And so it is what it is. When you see a butterfly, you're triggering happy, positive thoughts. When you're watching toxicity or war on a TV, you're triggering negative thoughts, which starts to have a biological effect right away on your body. And so when you take a positive polarity individual and you put them in a negative environment, that negative environment is going to start to trigger them, even if they don't realize that they are being triggered. We work the same exact way as all life. So if you took a thing of bacteria on one of those little red trays, right, and you stick it in a hot box, it's going to grow the bacteria. Well, what happens if you take the bacteria and you stick it out in the snow or the cold? It's not going to grow the bacteria. So a human being, in order to fully flourish, we have to craft our environment code, our location code, to be as positive and beautiful and serene and calm as possible. And so it does not matter. Maybe there's a lot of toxicity outside your door. Maybe you're in New York City and the hustle bustle and the underground subways and all that energy is very static. It's very anxious, right? Having that. It's not like being in a farm where it's very peaceful. You hear the crickets, you get to see the stars, right? It's like, oh, it's nice. It's a breath of fresh air, right? It's two different environmentals. And so if you don't feel good in one of the environments, get up and change it right away. Because not only that, but we've had people who have had cases of cancer. during that cancer, they get up, they change their environment, they go sit around on a beach, they hang out, they drink Mai Tais, they talk to people, they laugh, and then 6 months later, they're cured. And so your environment plays that kind of role in you. And so many people have the vortex ability. So each and every one of us, we are children of light. And so we're made of light ions. We are made of ether or source frequency, right? Whatever you want to call us is fine. It's all just terminology. It's still the same thing. Now, vortex energetic, your DNA spirals in a vortex. And so your binary codex frequency, your soul form, it comes down in a spiral. That's a vortex. Vortexes are circular in nature. And so it's actually a triangle of 3 different frequency waves that spiral. And so it looks the same exact as the DNA. So Mother Earth is giving us a Schumann resonance in a bunch of tiny little spirals. They're vortexes. And so the pyramids harness this type of vortex energetic, and it blasts it into the upper atmosphere, and it actually becomes in alignment with different planetary frequencies or bodies, they're saying. And so when we know that everything works in a vortex, if you take a plant and you took a video camera of that plant is going to grow in a vortex. And so that vortex energetic is the way all life is formed, all life. And so it has everything to do also with the flower of life symbol. The flower of life symbol, it starts a vortex, a toroidal field. It's the same exact thing, same symbol, right? It's the 8, it's the infinity. It's the same, it's sacred geometry and quantum physics. And so when we know this, and all of a sudden you can go outside, take your shoes off, touch the earth, right? You have to hold an open heart space. And so you have to go into the lower chakra of the heart. You have to feel the connection to Mother Earth's heartbeat. And so you really have to think of any images. Now, I listen to Little Dicky, right? And so it's the Earth song. And so I watched the video and I seen his little character flying over the earth, and I loved the video, totally. And so that's when I close my eyes and I ground into Mother Earth and I make this connection. I'm thinking of his video flying over the waterfalls and seeing the whales and all sorts of fun stuff. You can use that one, right? And it will help you to be in love with the earth. That's what the song says. It says, we love the earth, right? And so the more and more you start to tune yourself into, I love the earth, it actually allows you to form the energetic cord with Mother Earth. And so you ground in, you cord up with Mother Earth, right? You thank her for the experience. You thank her for the 2-way communication. Now, this communication can be telepathic in nature, which is electrical, which is the Schumann resonance or your chi energetics, but it can also be magnetic because she has a magnetic grid. That magnetic grid comes from the top down. And so both of these systems go like this, like a battery. And so she can align your complete energetic grid structure as well as activate you. And so you just ground in and just thank her for generating a vortex, right? And so just see it as an energy in a circular pattern that's going around and going around. Just thank her for it. Children do this naturally. When they take their shoes off and they dance in a circle, how many times have you seen the children do this? They're either feeling the vortex or they're circling, generating a vortex. Now, you'll notice the more and more you start to focus on generating this vortex, you can even do it in your bedroom. You don't have to be outside. Just feel the connection into Mother Earth and thank her. She'll generate it right underneath your house. Now, if anyone knows about aquifers or underwater currents that run under your home, let's say they're smacking together, it's generating a frequency that makes everyone sick in the home. Right? And so you can have 3 or more individuals. You should do it with 3 and then generate a vortex of life-giving energy underneath. And so it will transmutate that negative energy. They're saying this is the same exact concept as orgonite. And so orgonite plays with the DOR energy. And so it's messing with the ether, right? It's bringing love and light. You're bringing a type of energetic that is going to bring healing and love. So when we drop into meditations, we are able to naturally come into this alignment with Mother Earth. And so that frequency naturally, it pulls all the chakras in alignment depending on your emotional traumas, they're saying. Sometimes you could be an everyday meditator. He's correcting me. And so sometimes you could be an everyday meditator. And so one of your chakras can still be off balance. It depends on the individual, they're saying. Now, when you go into the meditation state, it allows this energy to come up and radiates out the top of the crown chakra. And then it has an effect on every single heart in a certain radius, which is a circular field. And so just imagine that all of our hearts can synchronize. This is very, very true through meditation. So if I'm slowing my heart rate or I'm becoming more cohesive in my frequency, that's going to have the same exact effect on all the people around me. So let's say you're living in a toxic environment, like your house is very toxic. You're going to want to drop into meditation. During the meditation is when this energy gets amplified, unless you set the vortex. When you call the vortex into your energetic location, it could potentially stay there. And so some people generate vortexes. Some people actually can call a portal. And so sometimes you can have a painting, for an example, and you can call a portal into the painting, and then you could see orbs flying in and out of it. It depends on the frequency that you encode the painting with. The artist does this naturally. And so if you take a look at some of Da Vinci's work, Da Vinci? Leonardo da Vinci? Is that his name? He's saying yes. I'll just believe him. If you take a look at some of his paintings and pictures, some of them are encoded with light activations that then activate your, yeah, it is, right? Okay, sorry. He's laughing at me. Some of his work, all of his work, is encoded with certain frequencies that allow for the evolution of the consciousness. So that's another reason why his work is very prominent, and it's very like take care of it, right? Because it has a frequency, and that frequency is high enough. So when something is of a high frequency, then all of a sudden you're naturally going to be drawn to take care of it. And so this happens with each and every person as well. Now, when I was a kid, I was all love and light, but I was very physically focused, but I strayed into an area. It was East New York. And so that was a really rough area. I had no idea. I was just a little girl driving around in my convertible. I had no clue. I had a Volkswagen Cabriolet. So it was a tiny convertible. And so I drove there. The police pulled me over. They were like, "What are you doing here?" And so they told me how to go home. Right. And so if you are very high frequency and you drop into a lower frequency environment, the universe will either guide you or something will happen. So it takes you out. Right. And so unless you need to have that experience of walking through the lower, like some of the they're showing me some of the hospital workers who go into these low traumatic places. But they're there for a reason. So that's a little different than what the original thing was telling you about. So when you're not in alignment with the location code, the universe will reorganize it to put you where you're meant to be, depending on your frequency. Leonardo has incredible information. So that is him. Oh my God, me too, but not a convertible, cutest car. I love my Volkswagen Cabriolet. We were so gangster with it. Right. And so I squeezed 8 people in that car. That car is tiny, right? The back seats are tiny. The front seat is tiny. And it was perfect. But we had to make a 7-Eleven run. Everyone wanted to go. And so we dropped the top. It was fall. It was freezing. And so we had people holding on to the sidebars. I mean, we had people in the trunk. Everyone was coming. It was like one of those clown cars, right? You get to the 7-Eleven and like people start climbing out of everywhere. It was great. So, yeah, I had a very interesting childhood. It was very, very fun. So, yeah, mine was purple and blue. So when the sun hit it, it kind of changed colors. Yeah. Okay, so we're coming up to the time. It's 8:30? Yeah, it's almost 8:30. Okay, so I do offer private sessions. And so the private sessions, I offer ascension sessions, which is exactly the information that you guys need in order to really level up and unlock your extrasensory abilities or whatever information that you guys need in the now moment. Now, I do a full energetic clearing on each and every one of my sessions, regardless of anything. And so it's just amazing to see because earlier, I want to say maybe a week ago, I did an energy, like my session kept getting reorganized. And so we had it and then we canceled, we had it and we canceled and we never did it. But I did a whole bunch of energetic clearings on the person. And so then it just so happened that whatever rough situation that person was going through, it was like, whoop, and she slid into a higher frequency and all that stuff was handled. And so this is the power of doing energetic clearings on ourselves. And so if you guys don't feel good or you're having stress or pressure or tension or you need to release something, just go inside, focus on your energetics. And so that's always going to be the first thing that we should handle because that has the potential to change everything we see in the physical reality. And so, yeah, my ascension sessions, it's wild. Your star families come forward. Any attunements that you have to extrasensory abilities, those I normally ask them for too. This way you guys get a little something and then you could take it and make communication with them. And so it's important. I do also offer healing sessions. we do an inner Zoom class. Now, we tried doing a Zoom for free. And what happened was we had, spammers come on, and then all of a sudden they took over the Zoom, and then we couldn't control it. And we had to end it early. So the next inner Zoom we do offer seats for, except I really want to do the next one on a donation basis. So you have to pay something to get in. I don't care what it is. Let's just do it for Christmas, right? And so I posted that date. I think it's next Wednesday. And so I posted that up. Just message me. You guys can go to daniellelipton.com. There's a little message box. So if you guys want to get into that class or that inner Zoom, right, we're going to do that one as a first trial basis on donation based only. So I figure if the spammers, if they have to donate, they're probably not going to show up. So, whatever. Put whatever you guys can put. It's fine. It's share and care, and let's, pay it forward. So pay $1. It doesn't really matter. Come to the Zoom. Let's ask your questions. Let's all have these types of comments and communications, and let's see what you guys need. Yeah. And so what else do we do? Sessions? Zoom? Allie does morning meditations, so you guys can also do that. I believe they're 8 to 9 in the morning. I'm not sure. So she has a little group going. And so that's also at daniellelipton.com. If you guys have any questions that you want to see on the next live, go to daniellelipton.com. There's a little message icon. Just send me all of your questions. I will answer every single one of them. Anybody on my Facebook, you guys can just send me a message direct. We have an email subscription list. So if you guys want to go to daniellelipton.com, scroll all the way down, you could donate to me there, or you can even put your email in the subscription bar. And so that will allow you guys to stay in touch. And so if we ever do get censored or, any shenanigans happens, I can directly communicate with you guys. And so also we do take donations as well at Star People Group. That's Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal. Star People Group. And actually Facebook, we have Star People Group too. That's my group. So if my Facebook account does get censored, then I can go to Star People Group and I can continuously post. So that's like one way of overriding Facebook. So I can still get the information to you guys, because the Star People, they give me a lot of writing. And so a lot of my Facebook people, you read my posts, but the video services and YouTube, you guys, I don't think you've ever read my posts. So my posts are very intricate. There's 500 of them, and it's basically like a guide of how to hack the matrix. So if you guys are interested, I advise all of you to go there and read. And so any questions, just send them to me and I will answer them all for you. Yes, and thank you guys very, very much. It's many, many love and blessings, and this was my pleasure, and happy holidays, right? I wish you guys the warmest of heart hugs from mine to yours. And so Merry Christmas, happy holidays, many love and blessings.